Let's keep reading Dragon Blood Pirates, Death Diamond. We're up to the chapter Deathly Dangers. The ropes cut into the boys' arms, and every time one of them moved, they hurt the others. Try to relax, advised Mahout. It's worse if you wriggle. Hours went by, and the three must have drifted off to sleep because Al awoke when someone poked him in the chest. Standing over him was a girl with red hair and a freckly nose, wearing a long dress with a knife in the waistband. "Where do you come from?" she asked. "The 21st century," Al replied. He pulled on the rope so Owen and Mahout awoke too. "Grenda!" Mahout exclaimed. "I wondered when you'd turn up." Grenda ignored Mahout and continued to stare at Al. "You have strange clothes. What are those?" She pointed to Al's shoes. "Sneakers," said Al. "Sneakers?" The girl shrieked with laughter. "Sneakers are smelly farts." Mahout was laughing now too. "Never seen or heard anything so silly," Grenda went on. She turned and looked at Mahout. "I'm bored. The dead pirates stink. Tell me a story or something." "I don't want to tell you a story. Where's Sharkbait?" asked Mahout. "He's having a feed and a sleep. I'm sick of eating salty beef, so I said I'd guard you." She poked Al again. "Silly hair," she added. "Looks like it's been chewed by rats. Silly clothes." "If you're sick of salty beef, we can get lots of great fruit," said Al, thinking quickly. "If you want, we can take you there." "No," said Grenda. "I'm supposed to guard you." With those words, she walked off to explore the cave. Please don't do that. She put a dead pirate's hat on her head and did a little dance. "Board, board, board," she sang. After about 10 minutes of walking around, she came back. "If I untie you, will you promise not to escape?" she asked. "Definitely," said Mahout. "Pirate's oath?" "Pirate's oath," said Mahout. Grenda held her knife in front of Mahout. He spat on the knife. "May I be eaten by a shark and rot as a ghost if I try to escape," he said. In turn, Grenda put the knife before Al and Owen's lips. They spat and made the same pledge. Grenda smiled in satisfaction, untied them, and together, with torches held high, they made their way out to the open air. While Mahout and Al looked for fruit, Owen taught Grenda how to moonwalk. He's been a moonwalking pirate. Her laughter at his antics was infectious. "She isn't too bad for a pirate's daughter," Mahout said to Al. "We've met a few times. She's not like her mum." "How did you become a pirate?" Al asked Mahout. "I lived with my grandfather on Sabre Island," he replied. "He looks after the elephants there. Anyway, Gunner turned up one day and was going to kill one of the elephants for ivory when Grandfather begged him to stop. Gunner stopped, but only after he made a deal. He took me as his cabin boy, and I've been working for him ever since. He's gone back to the island lots of times, and he takes me to visit Grandfather." "Perhaps you should join up with Snotty's crew," said Al. He turned and looked down the cliffs at the Tormentor moored alongside the Bounty. They sound like they've got better food, and you might be able to go home." "No way," answered Mahout. "Snotty Nell is as mean as she is ugly. She's one of the nastiest pirates in all of the Dragon Blood Islands. Gunner's actually a real softy. He acts mean, but he never does anything about it. He's called Gunner, not because he has a gun, but because he's always gonna do stuff." And then he never does. "Between you and me, he makes sure Grandfather is okay and doesn't go hungry." "Speaking of hungry," Al said as he spotted some fruit under a large tree. "Do you want that mango?" Mahout nodded. When the boys reached the tree, Al noticed an opening near the roots. "What's that?" he said. "It looks like another entrance to the caves." "You never know, it might lead us to the diamond," joked Mahout. "Is anyone ever really going to find this diamond?" Al said. "Snotty Nell will, if anyone will," replied Mahout. "Gunner never has any luck. Even Snotty's boat used to belong to Gunner. She stole it from him years ago. He's never forgiven her, and they are sworn enemies." "She always wins. This time Gunner's done for. He'll lose everything." Maybe we could try for the diamond, Al suggested. I saw the map. If we got it, we could save Gunnar. Mahout smiled. We could try, he said. He stood up and called out to the others. Hey, Grenda, Owen, look. I can see old Sharkbait headed back from the tormentor. Grenda stopped what she was doing and ran over to Mahout. We'd better hurry, she said breathlessly. He'll be furious that I've let you out. Yep. Grenda, we found another tunnel, said Al. I remember the map. It might give us a shortcut back to the dead man's cave. Grenda needed no further prompting. Fearing trouble from the bosun, she ran to collect their torches, then quickly lit them, and soon they were marching downwards into the caves. I don't think this is getting us to the dead man's cave, Grenda said after a few minutes. I think we've made a big mistake. Just give it a bit longer, said Al. He began to feel guilty about tricking her, but he was still obeying the pirate's oath. He was not escaping. Their torches flickered on the wet, slimy walls. The tunnel steepened suddenly, and they had to watch every step in case they fell. Soon it levelled out. Ahead, blue, twinkling lights radiated a phosphorus glow, and they came across a cavern lit by glowworms. Amazing, said Owen, awestruck by the sight. What's this? Asked Grenda. On the cave wall in front of her was a rusty lever. It was set into the rock, and above it was written... Ooh, what do you think that says? I think it's written backwards. Do you reckon? What does it say? You don't know? You can't read it? Imagine you're looking in a mirror at it. I reckon if you look in a mirror at it.
Do not touch it. Do not touch it if you want to live.
Yeah, I think that's what it says. That's cool, isn't it? See, it's like backwards if you look in the mirror. Got to imagine it in a mirror. Before Al could work out what the words meant, Grenda pulled the lever. A loud grinding noise made them look upwards. In the eerie light, a giant blade fell from the ceiling. It scythed downwards, then up again in an arched motion, hitting the ceiling above their heads with an intense thud. Grenda, who was in the way, was catapulted into the air. Her blood-curdling shriek filled the tunnel. Al shut his eyes, his stomach churning. He didn't want to see Grenda's dead body. But as she kept screaming, Al realised she was alive. He opened his eyes. Grenda hung from the roof, upside down. The blade had swept past her and become caught in her full skirt as it swung upward. "Get me down!" Grenda screamed. The boys climbed onto each other's shoulders, removed the knife from her waistband and cut her free. When she had found her feet, Mahout took her hand. "You were lucky you weren't killed," he said. "One more millimetre and you'd have been whacked in half." "The caves must be full of man-traps," said Al. "We'd better go back. I'd rather take Sharkbait's anger than risk staying here." "Yes, let's go," said Owen. "I shouldn't have touched that lever," Grenda apologised. "You could have waited till we read the sign," said Al, pointing to the strange words on the cave wall. "I can't read," she said. "We pirate kids don't go to school." "Even if you could read," said Owen, defending Grenda, "this is gobbledygook. It's code," said Al. "I just need a minute to work it out. It might give us a clue to something." He leant against the wall and was about to say, I'm pretty good at codes, when the wall gave way. Like a revolving door, it swung back, rolled around, pushed him into another cave and slammed shut behind him. His friends hammered on the rock, but Al couldn't find a way back to them. Armed only with a fading torch, he soon realised there was nothing for it but to go on alone. Next chapter. The Diamond's Curse. Al's torch soon burned out. He staggered through impenetrable darkness, crashing into walls and bumping his head. He choked back the fear that he would die in the tunnels and never see his friends again. Finally, exhausted, he slumped to the floor. He lay there for a minute, steadying the thump of his heart and summoning his courage. "You mustn't stop or give in," he told himself as he stood up. He was just wondering which way he should try to walk when he heard a noise. It's my mind playing tricks, he told himself. But then it came again. Voices. He stumbled towards the sound. Snotty Nell's torches flicked brightly against the darkness. It's a bit confusing which tunnel we should take, she said as she turned the map this way and that. She and her crew stood in a small cabin which had several tunnels leading into it. Al sneaked toward them and hid behind a rock. The Booty's crew was sitting on the floor so close to him he could almost touch them. Gunner was nearest to him, guarded by a tall pirate holding a sword to the captain's chest. The tall pirate snarled at his captive. As soon as we get that diamond, I'm going to be the one who guts you. Gunner lifted his head defiantly. Vampire Zoo, you're big, but the bigger you are, the further you fall. Vampire Zoo kicked Gunner in the leg viciously and smiled a sharp-toothed smile. You're a dead man, he hissed. Snotty Nell interrupted their argument. We're all exhausted, so we'll have a bit of a shut-eye, she said. Snuff out your torches and save them for later. Shortly, everything went black, and the pirate's snores told Al they were asleep. Remembering where Gunner was sitting, Al carefully moved to his side. He tapped him and whispered, Shh, it's Al. I'm going to untie you. Within minutes, Gunner and his crew were free. Holding hands, they crept away, back down the tunnel Al had just come through. When he was sure they couldn't be heard easily, Gunner whispered, I'm not letting Snotty have that diamond. We should follow her. We don't have the map, and we need it or we could be lost down here forever. Diamond or no diamond, we follow her. Find the right moment and take the map. Gunner and his crew sat quietly in the dark until the lights of the torches told them Snotty was awake. There was a great commotion when Snotty realised her captives had escaped. Gunner's crew waited while the angry pirates argued among themselves. Soon they heard that Snotty and her crew were going to look for the diamond first, then hunt down the escapees later. Even though Snotty's crew were noisy and argumentative, they were not easy to follow. The twisting tunnels were confusing, and Al shuddered every time he ran into a sticky spiderweb and the hairy creatures scuttled over him. Quite often Gunner's crew stumbled and fell, but not a sound escaped their lips. Eventually their trek came to an end. Snotty's pirates came out of the tunnel and entered a massive ghostly cave lit by glowworms. Gunner and his crew hid in the shadows and let their eyes grow accustomed to the strange light. In the middle of the cavern, on a large rock, sat piles of gleaming pearls. The pearls were heaped around a huge diamond. In the light of the glowworm tunnels, Death Diamond flickered like a star. Al noticed a gigantic boulder suspended at a strange angle just above the diamond. He studied it further, and in the gloom he just made out the wires of a clever pulley system. The boulder cast a threatening shadow over the cave. Snotty's men couldn't believe their greedy eyes. An echoing cheer came from their throats. Fill your pockets, one of the men cried, and the pirates stampeded towards the treasure. In a flash, the ground opened beneath their feet. A great puff of dust and dirt erupted, and the pirates disappeared. Gunner's pirates left the shadows carefully, crept to the edge of the huge man-trap and peered in. Several metres down, Snotty and her men were wriggling in a confusion of arms, legs and swords. Gunner roared down at Snotty Nell. The diamond's ours now. Hope your bum hurts, you old pig. Snotty Nell yelled something back, but luckily all the pirates who had fallen on top of her muffled her reply. Gunner made a move toward the diamond. Gunner, I think we should be more... There could be more man-traps, Al cried in a warning. I think you should stay here and let me get the diamond. I'm light and I might not set them off. Good idea, young Al, Gunner agreed, patting Al on the back warmly. So far you've been very lucky. You do what you think's best. Al bravely set off, testing each step before putting his full weight on his feet. He zigzagged slowly across the cavern floor. Eventually the diamond was only centimetres away from his eyes. He looked up at the rock that hung menacingly above the diamond. He stepped back and looked around some more. There, on the stone below the diamond, was an inscription. What's this one say, Jesse? Can you read it backwards? Read it out. Try it, buddy. Just like imagine it's in a mirror. Come on. Start here, start at the end and reading it backwards. You can do it. Yes, you can. Warning. You see, you start with the W there. Imagine it like in a mirror. It says warning. Can you read it, Owen? Warning. Do not loose the weight in front of you. It was that code again. What's keeping you? Called Gunner. It's booby-trapped, replied Al. There's a clue written here. It'll take me a bit of time to figure it out. Al thought for a while before he realised what the code said. Then he moved back and returned to the pirate crew. Find me a rock about the size of a duck's egg, he told them. Gunner nodded and the men searched the edges of the cave. Eventually a rock was found. Al tested it in his hand. It was about the same size as the diamond. He hoped it was about the same weight. Warily he returned to the diamond. Using all his concentration, he positioned the stone millimetres above and just beside the diamond. Then, careful not to move even one pearl with his sleeve, he snatched the diamond and immediately put the rock in place. For a second, the giant boulder above him wobbled, but then it settled. With the diamond gleaming in his hand, he held it high. Next chapter. Stealing ships. Captain Gunner jumped around in joy. He patted the diamond in his pocket and his huge grin made his eyes twinkle. Al, he said, laughing. Al, you are just the best. He grabbed Al's hand and shook it hard. I'm nearly the happiest man in the world, and I'm soon to be even happier. He beckoned Al to follow him as he made his way to the man trap. Snotty Nell and her crew stood forlornly at the bottom. Captain Gunner called out to the pirates below. You can rot down there. I'm going to leave you to die. You festering pimple, cried Snotty Nell. I'll make you pay. Don't know how, replied Captain Gunner. You rapscallions won't be getting out of that hole, especially you, Vampire Zoo. With those words, he stepped back from the trap and stomped his feet like he was walking away. He suppressed a huge smile. You're not leaving us, cried Snotty Nell. You wouldn't leave us to die. Do you give in? Gunner called back. Will you promise not to escape and also say we are the best pirates and you are just a scabby crew of lickspittles? Never, screamed Scotty Nell. Die then, said Gunner. He put his finger to his lips for silence. No one moved. The seconds ticked by as Snotty Nell thought about the situation. All right, we promise, she yelled, still furious. And? Asked Gunner. We're lickspittles, cried Snotty Nell angrily. Now let us out. What are you? Gunner asked. Scabby lickspittles, Snotty Nell replied reluctantly. Now can we come out, please? I'm a fool to myself, Gunner answered. Throw up all your weapons and we'll haul you out. The roles were then reversed. Snotty Nell and her crew were the prisoners now. The Booty's crew marched behind them, back to the dead man's cave with their swords drawn. Hours later, the victorious crew of the Booty emerged from the tunnels to find Owen and Mahout tied together and Grenda sitting in a corner as punishment for letting the boys escape. Sharkbait was clumping up and down, keeping guard. There was a cry of relief from the boys at the sight of Al safe and sound, and Al quickly untied his friends. Sharkbait was overpowered and Grenda rushed into her mother's arms. She glared fiercely at Al. I'm never going to forgive you, she snapped. It wasn't long before Captain Gunner made the Tormentor his home again. He set the sails and the sleek frigate flew across the ocean, leaving Death Island behind them. He left Snotty Nell and her crew in the cave. The Booty was left at anchor, but not before Gunner cut the sails and ropes with his sword. He took out a spyglass and... and watched his old boat until it disappeared over the horizon. We're not going to see them again, he said. Little known to Gunner, though, Snotty Nell was busy at work. Sharkbait had not wasted his time while the other pirates were looking for the diamond. He had kept himself busy in the dead man's cave, collecting all the skeleton's sabres, swords, knives and pistols, hiding them just in case they were needed one day. When he told Snotty Nell of his work, her face broke out in one of its rare smiles. Once Captain Gunner had sailed away, Snotty's crew picked up the weapons and stripped the fine coats from the skeletons of the dead pirates. With needles and thread, they set to work and patched the booty's sails. Soon, a colourful rig was flapping in the breeze. As the booty set sail, Snotty Nell placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "We'll sneak up on Gunner tonight," she said, "and I'll make him sorry." "Yes, I'm sure you will," said Grenda. "But aren't you glad he didn't leave you down in the pit?" Her mother glared at her. "I worry about you, my girl," she replied. You're a poor excuse for a pirate. I thought you'd want revenge on those scamps who tricked us all." Grenda smiled at her mother. They were annoying, she agreed, but secretly she thought about the fun she'd had with the boys. Sometimes it was very boring being the only kid on a pirate ship. "I'm just glad they didn't leave you to die," she said aloud. "True," her mother said. "For that small mercy, I won't kill them when I catch up with them. I'll just get what should be mine." That night in town, Gunner sold the diamond for a trunk of gold doubloons. He repaid his loan to Stanley Spong and gave every crew member an equal share of the treasure. "It's a party on board the Tormentor tonight," he joyously told them. "I'll make salmagundi the most delicious pirate stew," said Slicer. "You can't have a party without salmagundi. I'll buy all the best ingredients. What will you boys do with your money?" "Not sure," replied Al as he stared at his mountain of gold coins on the galley table. Snakeboot, the cat, mewed and jumped up. "We could at least get a cat box for old Snakeboot," said Owen, tickling the cat under the chin. "He needs a better place to sleep than on the floor. It gets so wet during the storms." The boys put some gold coins in their pockets and went shopping. Mahout bought himself some shoes and a new pair of pants, and there was nothing Owen and Al wanted for themselves. As there was nothing Owen and Al wanted for themselves, they found a carved wooden box for Snakeboot and carried it back to the boat.
Stop here.
Behave, boys. While they were helping get ready for the party, Al looked at their pile of gold coins. "Where will we keep them all?" he asked. "If I was at home, I'd put them in the bank, but there's no bank here." "Bank?" asked Mahout. "It's a place where you can put your money and people look after it for you and keep it safe so it can't be stolen," answered Owen. "And if you want to get money out, you just put a card in a hole in the wall and the money pops out." Mahout shook his head in disbelief. "You boys come from a very strange place," he said. "Around here, we just hide it." "In Snakeboot's cat box," suggested Al. "He'll guard it." Snakeboot pressed his head against Al in agreement, so the boys put their gold coins in the bottom of the cat box and put a blanket over the top. The cat leapt inside and purred. Slicer made pirate stew. Into a giant pot he threw mangoes, anchovies, half a pig chopped into pieces, a tub of pickled herrings, 4 cabbages, onions, olives, grapes and 2 giant fish, bones and all. Then added garlic, salt, pepper and mustard to improve the taste. "No way am I eating that," said Al as his nose twisted at the atrocious smell of salmagundi. "I'd vomit," agreed Owen. So the boys made themselves an omelette and helped themselves to bread. As the sky grew dark, the ship's navigator got out his fiddle. Mozzie found a drum and Slicer brought out a flute. A small band was soon playing sea shanties and the pirates sang and danced, while gorging themselves on the salmagundi. "You'd have to be tough to eat that," said Al in admiration. Eventually the pirates wore themselves out and everyone fell asleep, happy and contented. Al was dreaming he was back at home in his nice lounge room watching TV when he was suddenly pulled to his feet. Vampire Zoo's angry eyes bore into him. Al tried to shout a warning, but the man's giant hand forced his mouth shut and fierce fingers dug into his neck. Al struggled mightily, but he was gagged, bound and pushed to the floor. He watched in dismay as Owen, Mahout and the rest of the crew were also captured. Snotty Nell arrived and removed any gold coins she could find. She went to Snakeboot's cat box and tried to haul the cat out. Snakeboot bristled, hissed and lashed out with his giant front paw, cutting deeply into Snotty Nell's hand. "Foul fiend!" she shrieked, sucking the blood. She beckoned Sharkbait over. "You pull it out," she ordered. Sharkbait made a move towards the cat, but Snakeboot sprang at the pirate's head and attacked, kicking hard with his back feet and slicing at his face. Sharkbait screamed and jumped away, and the cat returned to his box, his purple eyes glaring savagely. "I'm not touching it," Sharkbait said. "Leave the creepy thing where it is." "You kill it," Snotty ordered Vampire Zoo. Vampire Zoo looked closely at the cat and paled. "Look at its eyes," he said, and a shiver went down his spine. "I'd be cursed if I touch it." "Pack of no-hopers," said Snotty Nell. "Pick it up, box and all, and put it on board the booty. I don't want that horrid thing left on my boat." So Snakeboot and Gunner's trussed-up crew were carried onto the booty and left on deck. Snotty Nell waved a cheery goodbye as she sailed off in the Tormentor with all the gold. Next chapter, Saved. The pirates lay on the deck of the booty, bound and gagged. Al wriggled snake-like to Owen and put his face to Owen's hands. Owen pulled at Al's gag with his fingers until it loosened. With his teeth free, Al chewed and pulled at the ropes, holding Owen's hands. His jaw ached as he worked, but the big knots began to move. Soon, Owen was free, along with the rest of the crew. "Hell's bells and buckets of blood," swore Captain Gunner sadly as he looked around his boat. "We're ruined. She's even taken our weapons, the mean old trout." Slicer patted Gunner's shoulders. "We'll get her yet," he said. "We'll feed her to Greeny Jack, you can bet." Gunner brightened. "That shark did a good job on her once," he agreed. "But even if Greeny ate her tonight, we're sunk. No money, no food, and no weapons." As he spoke, Snakeboot came on deck and wrapped himself around Gunner's leg. Gunner absent-mindedly reached down and patted the cat. "We're not ruined," Al told him. "Snakeboot's got a fortune." When Gunners saw the boy's gold, his eyes popped out. "I can't take that," he told them. "That's yours by pirate law. And pirate crews don't take things from each other. We can't be a crew if you don't fix the ship and buy new weapons, and then you could take me to see my grandfather," Mahout suggested. "It's a deal," said Captain Gunner gratefully. "I told everyone you'd be lucky, and you sure have been." He tickled Snakeboot behind the ear. "And you're the best mascot a pirate ship has ever had." Hours later, Owen and Al took themselves into town to do a bit of exploring, but Snakeboot followed them. When they were a long way from the boat, Owen saw him. "Hey, Snakeboot," said Owen, "what are you doing here?" "We'd better pick him up and take him back," said Al. "He might get lost." Al bent to pick up Snakeboot, but the cat dodged and ran down a winding alley. The boys ran after him. Snakeboot stopped outside a crumbling warehouse. Broken windows, grime and spiderwebs told the boys the building was abandoned. The cat leapt at the door. "He wants to go in there," Owen said. Al tried the door, but it was locked. The cat mewed and clawed at the door again, so the boys looked around for another way in. Above the door was a sign, Alaric Traders. "Same name as you, Al," Owen said. "Alaric. It's a strange name, isn't it?" Al nodded. "It was my grandfather's name. He was Alaric, and I was named after him. I don't really like it, though." "Well, Snakeboot wants to go in," said Owen. "How can we help him?" Snakeboot leapt against the door, this time quite desperately. "We could ask someone if they've got a key," suggested Al. As he said the word key, he remembered the key to his grandfather's trunk, which was still in his pocket. He pulled it out. It looked like it would fit. He put the key in the keyhole and turned it. The door opened. The boy stepped inside, and suddenly goosebumps went up and down Al's spine. He shut his eyes. Home. Al was standing in the attic with Owen beside him. Their drinks were on the floor where they had left them. Al picked up the cola. It was still cold. His father's voice came from downstairs. "Alaric Brayus, this is the last time I'm going to ask you to come down and help with the dishes." Al stared at Owen. Owen stared at Al. "Did we just go to Pirate Land?" Al asked. "Maybe it was all in our imagination," said Owen. "Al Brayus!" Al's dad shouted. "Come downstairs now!" "Definitely our imagination," said Al. "I really should help Dad with the dishes." I should go home, said Owen, still in shock. Just then, Al's sister Hallie stuck her head into the attic. Dad's getting mad, she warned her brother. Then her eyes went wide. Where did you get that cat? The boys turned, their eyes bugged out in total disbelief. Snakeboot was standing beside the trunk. Oh, the poor thing has lost its paw, said Hallie. It looks so fluffy and furry, she patted the cat. Is it a stray? Both boys nodded, dumbfounded, unable to find their voices. I'll take it down to show Dad. I'm sure he'll let me keep it, said Hallie. The cat purred loudly, rolled over and showed its tummy. You can be my little snickerpoo face, kitty, Hallie cooed as she grubbed the cat's underbelly. Ooh, feel its fur, it's so soft. And you are so white, just like a little ghost. I'll call you Fur Ghost. Won't I, Schnookums? She gave the cat a kiss on the nose. No, that's not a good name. You need a nice name. How about Fergus? She's called Snakeboot Fergus, whispered Owen. Al shook his head. I don't want to talk about it just now, he replied. I think I should go down and do the dishes. The end.